Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. It's 6 questions in 9 minutes because leaders know how to be concise. Well, let's jump right into it. Question number one. In a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Drew Stevens. I am the owner operator of Stevens Consulting Group, which is nothing more than a transformation company. Essentially, we work with middle market companies and transform those companies into prosperous and abundant organizations, both through culture as well as communication.
Love it. Thank you. Question number two. What's the best thing about working with a team?
Best thing about working with team, I could say this in 4 ways. You have what I call the 4 Cs. It's part of my doctorate that I had worked on for many years. Kind of coincidentally, as I was working on this, Jim Collins was writing his book, and somehow he was able to make more money than on it. But it is what it is. I have some of the essence of the research, and the reason why I say that is because the essence of my doctorate was on job satisfaction and worker productivity. What I found is that there are 4 things. Number one, there's got to be very good communication in the workplace. When there's communication, people understand what they're responsible for. Managers then can create a sense of accountability. When people are then understanding what the responsibilities are, they then move to the second level, which is cooperation. They're able to cooperate with each other. Each one knows that there's got to be some delegation. There's a little bit of give and take. And so those teams then are able to work harmoniously with each other. Once you get that cooperation, you then have collaboration, because usually working with a team is not really about 1 or 2 people. It's 4, 5, 6, and in certain cases it's groups of hundreds or more. But those teams all need to communicate harmonistically so they understand what the accountables are, what the time frames are, and what needs to be done to get all of those accountable in action. When you have that, you then have collaboration. And when you look at it from that collaborative work team, organizations that are exemplars to this are Zappos with Tony Hsieh, SAS Institute down in North Carolina with Jim Goodnight, and even to a certain extent, larger organizations such as Microsoft, Google, and even Tesla for that matter, because everyone knows what the other needs to do. And these are where the examples in just Fortune 500 communities where you see that coalescence of collaboration, and people say, why are those cultures so great, and so why are they always looking for good people? And they are, because they understand what the essence of teamwork is all about.
Great information. Thank you. Well, the third question. I've heard from other leaders that it can be a challenge to get team members engaged. Tell me your thoughts on getting them engaged.
That's a great question, Sean. And, there's 2 sides to this. And I don't want to belabor the point here, but there's this myth in leadership, as I talk and instruct and write on leadership, that you can always engage somebody else. You can always move somebody off the dime. Realistically, as a leader, you're setting the aura for the organization, and you're hopeful that that aura is based upon the strategy that you try to implement, the vision that you're communicating to folks every single day, and the goals and the expectations that you want that align with that vision. But if you have a sloth, there's just so much that are able to get out of a sloth. You're not going to get blood out of a stone. And so realistically, what I say to folks, and if we had more time and maybe another discussion, is simply this. It really starts in terms of the selection, recruitment, and training process. You've got to bring in the right people into the team and make sure that everybody coalesce. Unfortunately, when you and I work with organizations, if we were within an organization right now, typically we inherit folks. And we inherit folks because either A, what happens in organization is that we're promoted from within. And so we get who was with that team no matter what. And we're just coming in from another department or another area within the organization. 2 is we're promoted because somebody is either terminated or they passed away. And so immediately you're still inheriting what existed before. And so even if you're brought into a brand new, which is the third example, you interviewed and you walk into a brand new management situation, you're inheriting that team. There's just so much you can do at that particular point. So you don't get an opportunity to look at personality. You don't get an opportunity to understand behavior. You don't have an opportunity to understand the communication techniques within that team. And what winds up happening is that there's dissonance within that team. And there's dissonance because you have a certain set of obligations and expectations, and that person who has been there already has the behavior that they've had for years based upon previous management, and perhaps they just don't enjoy the job. We can get into a whole other issue related to teamwork where work itself, and I looked at this for the better part of 6 or 7 years, work could be mechanistic. Working in a brewery, working in a meat house, working in an auto assembly plant is mechanistic. And there's that notion that you should be excited to come to work because you're getting paid. I get that. Yes, we could look at that from the spiritual side of I get to go to work today. I don't have to go to work today. We also get the other notion where people just don't like their jobs, and that's where you get people that look like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. It's gloom and doom no matter what. You can't, it's hard if you don't have somebody that's interested in the work, but if you've got to move people around so that they're challenged every day, that's something totally different. But if the behavior and the personality are illustrating to you that the person is just who they are, then it's time to, make a decision that they may just be toxic for that culture in the organization.
Yeah, great information. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Fourth question. What other successful team leaders, such as yourself, should be on my podcast?
There are tons that are out there that I know of. I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I've got close to 15,000 people on my LinkedIn profile. I'm with several different groups that are speaking groups and training groups, and I could probably think of 5, 6, 7 right off the top of my head, from Albert Poor to Donnie Ingram to Sima Lieberman, that would all be part of your podcast to help you out.
Great. Well, thank you.
You're
Question
welcome.
number 5. What piece of advice would you give to other professionals leading teams?
Teamwork is no different. And everybody seems to think that team and leadership are different, profit and nonprofit. And they think that it's different whether it's a startup or whether it's a Fortune 500 organization. And I got to tell you, those are all lies. And don't be steered by that in any way, shape, or form. When it comes to leadership, it's really about communication and vision. You have got to be able to communicate daily what the vision is. And then lastly, you hold people accountable for those two variables. When it comes to teams, it's really about developing a culture of individuals that coalesce around what that vision is, but more importantly, are excited about it. And what I typically say, Sean, and I'll take this a little bit from where I talk a lot about marketing amongst my group, because I focus sometimes intently on the revenue side. I believe that when we're looking at culture, it's called need, fit, and competence. And what I say there is, number one, what is the need of the organization? In other words, what are the type of people that are necessary to perform the various functions of the organization? Whether it's logistics, whether it's operations, whether it's revenue, whether it's other management, if you have to have some hierarchy in there. The second thing is, are they passionate? Are they passionate about the company? Are they passionate about the industry? Are they passionate about the competitive nature of that industry? Even, you and I are sitting here during a pandemic, COVID-19. One of the biggest things to discuss right now is the supply chain. I have Tom on one side, I have Dave on another. Tom is exceedingly excited to discuss logistics and supply chain and try to get information into, is trying to get dire equipment into the hands of those that need it. Dave's just looking for a job. Well, it's just, why are you coming in? I'm just interested in supply chain. You don't need that person. They're not showing you that. So you need somebody who's truly interested in that. I named before Zappos. That's what sets Zappos apart, because Tony Hsieh only hires people that are interested in helping other people. For heaven's sakes, if you're not interested in helping other people, then you're not in customer service. Go work someplace else.
Right.
And last but not least, there should be competence. And to a certain extent, when it comes to competence, there's something that needs to be understood amongst your viewers, and that is this. There are too many human resource professionals that are out there that are utilizing these rote computer systems and making decisions on resumes based upon what keywords I have in that application. To me, that's a lot of caca. And it's a lot of caca because you don't know what the competence level of the individual is that you're missing out on, that literally could fit into your organization like a puzzle piece. And so we're vetting so many. And what I believe is that if you really take it down to what building culture is all about, it's about the people side. So when we have people that truly have the competence and truly have the passion and they fit our need, then it's going to fit like a nice little puzzle within the organization. When this happens, it's because all we're trying to do is fill a job description, not those three principles.
Great insights. Thank you so much for sharing those. We've got about 60 seconds left. So the sixth and final question, tell us about your first job.
My first job, probably the best one, and reason why I got a huge smile on my face. And the reason being is I had a leader who is a lot of what I'm exemplifying here. Phil would come out of his office. It was a tiny little shop in White Plains, New York. And I was selling real-time market data to stockbrokers and traders and portfolio managers. And literally every Friday, Phil would come out of his office, put his hands behind his head and say, "Hey guys, what do you need? What do you need that's going to make you more successful? What tools, what resources, what amount of money is going to make you better so that we can make this a successful company?" We started that company with literally $1 million in revenue. When that company was sold, I kid you not, 3 years later, it was sold for $36 million to Standard & Poor's. Got a small share in the company, and I literally went from an $18,000 a year salary to a $100,000 a year salary. But outside of the money, there's something that money can't buy, and it's why I bring up that money. It's the fact that I still talk about Phil somewhere between 35 and 37 years later. Why? Because I think that's the way that leadership needs to be done, and it's not today. It's leaders providing the resources necessary so that everybody could be successful.
Well, I couldn't agree more. That's fantastic. Drew, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. How can people find you?
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Several ways. One, I have a website, and that is Stevens with a V.com. So send me an email, which is real easy, Drew or as I say, Stevens.com, or you can call me directly. I use a cell phone, and I return all calls, texts, and emails in 90 minutes. And that's 314-574-9716.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, this is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders share their insights. For more ideas, go to Blue Sky Business Consulting on LinkedIn.